I did something I talked to him. He just texted me. Said it's too late.
See, that's what actually kicker though. You don't know when you.
No, no, we don't be done. He had surgery scheduled tomorrow, but I'm sure he'll do it.
All right, can everybody hear me okay? Excellent. Sounds like it's working anyways. Well, we've got a packed house tonight. It's wonderful to see so many smiling faces, as I say often. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Monday, August the 2nd, regularly scheduled council meeting. We welcome you all. It's great to have so many fantastic things to celebrate and see some familiar faces in the audience once again. With that being said, there will be an opportunity during the meeting for citizens to address the town council. When the mayor declares public comments open, I request that anybody addressing the council sign up, approach the podium when called, state your first and last name, and provide your complete mailing address. With that being said, Kim, if you'll please call the roll.
Mr. Owens?
Here.
Mr. Anderson?
Right.
Ms. Gillian?
Here.
Ms. Quetch?
Here.
Mayor Webb?
Here. That leads us to the Pledge of Allegiance. Ms. Amanda Pillion, if you would lead the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Amanda. And tonight we have a special guest that's coming to lead us in prayer, Pastor Dwayne Knight, if you'll approach the council. Thank you for coming.
Yes, sir. Good evening. Which way, or just?
Whatever you're comfortable with, we're good with.
I don't want to have my back to everybody. I don't want to have my back to somebody. What is it if I stand over there?
Sure.
All right.
Yeah.
Good evening, everybody. Let us pray. Gracious Father, we just thank you, dear God, for this opportunity to come together and be unified in you, dear God. And Father, bless everything that is done today, be done decently and in order and pleasing in your sight in the name of Jesus. Father, thank you for this council, all the ones who are, as your word says, the ones in authority, dear God. And it's our responsibility to pray for them and lift them up to you each and every day, dear God. We just thank you for those who are sitting in these seats right now, and we thank you for blessing them to make the right decisions as after they seek you, dear God. Nothing missing, nothing lacking, looking for anyone, and anything that's anyone that may have lack in, dear God. We just pray that you just give them increase in it, dear God. Give them revelation, knowledge, and understanding of the things that are done. In the name of Jesus, all thoughts focused on you, and all thoughts be godly thoughts. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you for that beautiful prayer, and as I always say, we can all use a little more prayer, right?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. That brings us to the approval of the agenda. Council, I do have one item I would like to add to the agenda, and I would entertain a motion to do so.
I'd like to make a motion that we amend the agenda because it would affect our bargaining position or negotiating strategy.
So that's to clarify, that's a closed session we're adding
That's
to the
right,
end
I'm
of the
sorry,
agenda.
closed
You're good.
session.
So that'll fall in with the other closed session we have scheduled under our CAM, if that's okay. Do we need to read the actual, okay.
No.
So we're just a motion to add the closed
Amend.
session. All right, thank you, Vice Mayor Quetch. I do have a motion to do so. Do I have a second?
A second.
Second by Mr. Owens. Any discussion, council? Hearing none, Kim, if you'll please call the roll.
Mr. Owens?
Aye.
Mr. Anderson?
Aye.
Ms. Pillion?
Aye.
Ms. Quetch?
Aye.
And Mayor Webb?
Aye. That brings us to public comments, of which we have two. First on our list is Mr. Doug Beatty, if you'll approach the council.
Thank you.
Do I just hand this directly to you all if I have something for you?
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doug.
What do we have here,
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to speak. I bring you greetings from Abingdon's historic Main Street business corridor stakeholders, and I'm defining them as the businesses and property owners from Russell Road to Deadmore on Main Street. I've handed you all a letter that we have all signed. There's 50 signatures on there now. I could get another dozen. They'll be emailing you personally their own support of this. But what this letter is asking you to act on the legislation that was passed in March, took effect July 1, allowing the establishment of designated outdoor refreshment areas. These we feel are of value. First of all, with the current climate, with COVID, this puts people outside, but it also puts feet on our main street, which is, being a tourist town, very important to us. It's also a sales driver for local ABC retailers, as well as basic retailers. It puts more feet on the street, as I said. USA Today has nominated, or actually chose, Abingdon 2 consecutive years as the best small food scene in the USA. By passing the designated outdoor refreshment areas, it will enhance that designation and also drive more interest to Abingdon's restaurants. We have 3 more scheduled to open up this year. We're hitting a magical critical mass, which will be a driver in itself. The more we have to choose, the more people will choose us over places like Marion, Wytheville, Bristol, those kind of things. So those 50 signatures on there are business and property owners who feel that these things are of value. It also eliminates the need for special event permits. Those are things that we use for the Thursday jams, any festivals that want to have alcohol at them. And what it does is eliminates the need for what we call the Sinner's Corral or the beer tents, things like that. And it incorporates a more professional retailing of alcohol. It puts it in the hands of experienced retailers as opposed to nonprofits who have zero experience selling retail alcohol. I've met with dozens of these stakeholders, property owners and residents. They all express the same concerns about these things, and it's the same things they expressed when we put beer at the Thursday jams. Public intoxication, noise, and trash. I met with Chief Holbrook for the first time in his capacity as chief, and very helpful, but there's already laws controlling those things. Public intoxication is never allowed in Abingdon on Main Street. So that hasn't been an issue with retail alcohol in the past, and it shouldn't be in the future. We also have wristbanding, clear plastic cups, the names on the cups for the retailer, so if there are problems, it's easy to find the source. Noise is a consideration, but we've already got a noise ordinance for 11 p.m. cutoff. We would like this door to have a start time and an end time that corresponds with that. As far as trash goes, we've got an ongoing trash problem on Main Street. We need more trash cans. We need more pickups.
I'm sorry, Doug, but you're out of time.
That's it. That's all I've got. We ask that you act on these things, instruct the town attorney to draft that ordinance, and we ask you all to act on it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. That brings us to Mr. John Dew. You're in the hot seat again. Long time no see,
Know
right?
your place.
Yeah.
Good evening, Mayor Webb, members of council. I won't be here in front of you too long because I read the room. I know there's a lot of people that need to be congratulated.
Our band.
Yeah.
Gratitude.
Gratitude, that's right. I just want to speak very briefly, like I said, about the RFP to solicit private operation of the wastewater treatment plant. And I understand it's an ongoing conversation, and I'm not sure if the proposals have been sent in yet, but I just wanted to reiterate a message I sent to all of you probably 2 weeks ago that I would encourage you to talk to DEQ, the regulatory folks, as well as other local communities in our area that have gone down this path. And I just want to encourage you to make a informed decision and get all the information you can, and stand here to represent, I guess, and honor a lot of people that have put a lot of their career and a lot of hard work into making the plant and the facility what it is today. and it's highly respected in our area, highly respected among the governing agencies. So just wanted to mention that out there and hopefully continue the conversation another time. And if you have any questions of me, I'd be more than happy to be available for any of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
John. All right. That concludes public comments. So at this time, we'll entertain the approval of the minutes. Council, if we don't have any changes or amendments to those two sets of minutes, July 6, 2021 and July 15th, 2021, the retreat, I would entertain a motion to adopt both of those at the same time.
Was everybody present at both meetings?
I have to
Amanda was
recuse
gone.
myself in the
That's right.
6th.
Yeah, you have to
Sorry.
do different motions.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we'll do separate motions. I apologize. Thanks, Cam, for that. Yeah. So, I guess first let's take up the July 6, 2021 meeting. I would entertain a motion to approve that.
I'll make a motion that we approve the July 6th meeting.
All right. Motion by Mr. Owens to approve July 6, 2021 meeting minutes. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Anderson. Any discussion, council? Hearing none, Kim, if you'll please call the roll.
Mr. Owens?
Aye.
Mr. Anderson?
Aye.
Ms. Pilly?
Abstain.
Ms. Quetch?
Aye.
Mayor Webb?
Aye. And then the July 15th, 2021 retreat. I would entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
I'll make some motion.
I'll second.
All right, got a motion by Mr. Anderson and a second by Ms. Pillion. Any discussion, council? Hearing none, Kim, if you'll please call the roll.
Mr. Owens?
Aye.
Mr. Anderson?
Aye.
Ms. Pillion?
Aye.
Ms. Quetch?
Aye.
And Mayor Webb?
Aye. All right, and that brings us to arguably the most exciting time during the meeting. For all those smiling faces out there, we do have quite a few proclamations tonight. I don't see that as a problem. I rather would celebrate that because that means we have a lot of things to celebrate. So first up on the agenda is a proclamation on the occasion to honor and recognize the Abingdon High School baseball team 2021 VHSL Class 3 baseball state runner-ups. And I would ask Mr. Anderson if you'd read that proclamation.
Whereas the town of Abingdon wishes to honor and recognize the Abingdon High School baseball team comprising 16 members and the team's coaches. Whereas the commitment required for student athletes to be a part of sport teams include meeting, required grades, attendance, and volunteer requirements, in addition to attending daily practices and scheduled competition events. And whereas on Saturday, June 26, 2021, the Abingdon High School baseball team competed in the Virginia High School League Class 3A State Championship in Abingdon, Virginia. And whereas the coaching staff and players of the Abingdon High baseball team made a great impact on their school and community by taking the baseball team to a championship game. And whereas it is with pride that the town council recognizes the commitment and dedication of these students who serve as a model for citizens across the Commonwealth. And now, therefore, by the authority vested in the mayor and on behalf of the Abingdon Town Council and citizens, I hereby commend the 2021 Abingdon High School baseball team for their tireless effort and achievement. The council wishes them success in their future endeavors.
I reckon this is the time we're gonna call them up and shake hands until we have to start wearing masks and say that out loud.
You better watch out.
That's it.
Cole, he get you back, man. He got scratches, man. He lost. You don't take no mess, man. Okay, number one, Luke the Duke, Francisco. Brant Boggs. Jake Thacker. Chase Hungate.
almost finished. I know y'all getting tired of seeing me run back and forth. But number 4 is a proclamation on the occasion to honor and recognize Xander Brown and Dylan Phillips for second place finishes. Abingdon High School 2021 VHSL track and field, which is near and dear to my heart because I was a track and field guy. And Mr. Owens is going to read that proclamation.
All right. I'd like on this occasion to honor and recognize Xander Brown and Dylan Phillips for second place finishes, Abingdon High School Boys Track and Field 2021 Virginia High School League Class 3 State Championship. Whereas the town of Abingdon wishes to honor and recognize Xander Brown, who placed second in the 100-meter dash, and Dylan Phillips, who placed second in the 16-meter run in the Virginia High School League Class 3 State Championships on Friday, June 18th, 2021 at Liberty University in Lynchburg, Virginia. Whereas the commitment required for student athletes to be part of a sports team includes meeting required grade, attendance, and volunteer requirements, in addition to attending daily practices and scheduled competition events. And whereas it is with pride that the town council recognizes the commitment and dedication of these two students who serve as a model for citizens across the Commonwealth. And now, therefore, by authority invested in the mayor and on behalf of the town council and citizens, I hereby commend Xander Brown and Dylan Phillips for their tireless efforts and achievements. The council wishes them success in their future endeavors.
Coach, that's just speed.
That's it.
Teach man to hit the baseball.
Do we want to do a picture with all of the high school or and/or graduates that are here tonight? Want to do a picture?
That'd be great.
Come on, cheerleading section. Yeah, come on now. See Virginia's face. This may be one of the few times you all get to have a picture together, right? That's it. That's it. Exciting stuff.
Oh, you may have to squeeze in a little bit, guys,
I
as
don't
much
mind,
as
I
you can.
promise. I'll turn sideways. Surely there's one good picture of all of us. That's it. And we won't hold you all hostage. It's not offensive if you decide to go ahead and leave before we get into the meat of the meeting. I know how it is. Thank you guys and gals. I appreciate it.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you all so much. Thank you. Appreciate you all.
You
Congratulations.
guys hang in there.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
Thank you all so much. Thank you. How exciting, right?
That was fun.
Exciting stuff.
I love it.
It is fantastic.
No, I love it.
Now, I hope you other guys aren't ready to throw rocks at us.
This is coming up next. Here's his next.
It is, right?
Let's keep the mood.
All right. And just as exciting, we have one more proclamation coming up, albeit with a few less people. We do have a proclamation recognizing Holston Mountain Artisans in celebration of their 50th anniversary. And I'm going to read that one if you don't mind. It's a proclamation recognizing Holston Mountain Artisan in celebration of their 50th anniversary, whereas Holston Mountain Artisans began as the Holston Mountain Arts and Crafts Cooperative in the spring of 1971, The goal was to find talented local craftspeople and artists and help them sell their wares for a reasonable return while educating the public on tradition and value of handwork. And whereas approximately 20 craftspeople eager to make some extra income and have their handiwork appreciated, organized, and joined the member-owned cooperative for the first venture, exhibiting and selling their items for 1 week at the annual Virginia Highlands Crafts Festival, which at the time was called the Flea Market. During this time, they were discovered by Barter Theater's director Robert Porterfield, who generously offered them the use of the cave house in exchange for maintaining the building. The co-op members were thrilled and renovated the beautiful old building, which had been vacant for many years, to use as a shop and place to hold craft demonstrations. And whereas the nonprofit cooperative has enrollment of 100 residents of Southwest Virginia and Upper East Tennessee, members helped seed the development of the visual arts at the William King Regional Arts Center before it became a museum, and later at the Arts Depot, where they continue to welcome the public to their studios. And whereas in 2010, the cooperative moved to its present location at 214 Park Street, where it continues to present the finest in traditional and contemporary crafts and art, and offer festivals, demonstrations, and classes to the public, with the mission of preserving the crafts culture and encouraging youth to carry it on. And whereas Holston Mountain Artisans is a vibrant community asset, has a positive economic impact, provides cultural and educational benefits, now therefore I, Derek Webb, Mayor of the Town of Abingdon, recognize the mission of Holston Mountain Artisans and celebrate their 50th anniversary. It's fantastic. And I think, Ed, if you would like to say a few words.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be back here. I believe this is the first time I've been to a council meeting in about 3 years, and I would like to say, first of all, how well the meeting seems to be run, and I'm confident that our town is in good hands. I had been asked to come with the folks from Holston Mountain tonight, and I wanted to say just briefly that I know from my own 50 years of involvement with that organization what a valuable asset it is for Abingdon. I have very fond attachments to that organization. The first job that I had right out of college in the very earliest days of the founding of the cooperative was as their shopkeeper. I happened to meet my wife there at Holston Mountain, and we've been married for 48 years. Our son, as a result of the legacy of craft work, is a ceramic sculptor of national repute. And the organization is not always recognized for the role that it's played in this community, particularly in the arts community. Your proclamation does note that members of Holston Mountain who got their teeth in running a business and making crafts there went on to be the first people who were represented or had studios at William King. They also went on to found the Arts Depot. A number of artists in our community right now came to Abingdon because of the climate that was here and the resource that was available and the market that was created by that. Holston Mountain did a great deal to really provide Abingdon as a reputation for a craft community. The town council has been kind enough to provide some support from time to time over the years. I'd like to say how much that has been appreciated and how helpful it has been to the cooperative. The organization has a particular mindset of being very frugal with any resources that they had. Any penny that came through that organization was pinched not just once or twice, but 3 times before it passed through. And I want to assure you that they have been good stewards of everything that has been provided. Thank you very much, for the proclamation tonight. I don't expect to really be back for the 100th anniversary, but I'm optimistic the organization will be here at that time. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't know if you guys would, y'all want to come up for a photo? We don't get too many photo opportunities nowadays.
Oh, no.
Right?
Let's see, now, let's let one of these folks have.
Sure.
Okay.
Congratulations again. You guys are matching. Pretty excited.
Look nice together.
You never do
Thank you.
You're doing a good job.
Like I said, exciting times, a lot to celebrate, right?
That's
I
right.
think we can all agree on that, huh? And I really and truly hope for the people that are viewing the meeting that we get to have just as many proclamations next year for all the groups that are gonna win state titles and have 50th anniversaries and all sorts of things, right? Yeah. So, to dive back into the meat of the session, that brings us to public hearings, of which I don't think we have any. We don't have any resolutions. We do have a first reading of an ordinance, that is an ordinance accepting Atmos Energy Corporation bid for natural gas franchise privilege, lease, or right proposed to be granted. Mr. Morani, do you have anything to add there?
No, just as you recall, at the last regular council meeting, we opened the submitted bid from Atmos Energy, and I was directed to prepare the agreement for them to operate the franchise agreement, and this is what we have before us. It's in the same form of agreement that we've had. I don't know how many years they've been operating the gas franchise in the community, but that's what you have before you, and it's the same that was presented to you in the form of the advertisement. So if there's any final questions, it does not need two readings, so it can
Correct.
just pass with a single ordinance.
Yeah.
It was just placed with the
So,
first reading section.
even though it's under first readings, we don't have to have that second one, so.
The law does not require it, so
Sure,
just
sure.
adopt the ordinance.
So really what I'm looking for is just a motion to adopt the ordinance as it is, and of course, we don't even have to forego the second reading because there is none. So at this time, council, unless you have any questions for Mr. Morani, I would entertain a motion.
Do you want,
to-
hold on a second. I thought you said we didn't need a second. Do you want
No,
just
we
in
can
case?
waive the second reading, but there
Oh,
needs
so
to
just
be
go
a
ahead and
second
waive it?
reading. Yeah.
Okay.
No,
all right.
I apologize.
Yeah.
I thought the state law said that we didn't have to do
Okay.
it.
It's still an ordinance under.
Oh,
our
because it's an ordinance under our code. Okay.
Okay.
Apologize for that.
So, actually, backtrack just a little, I am looking for a motion, to adopt this ordinance and waive the second reading.
You should just stop me. in the
I'll
middle of
make
the
that motion.
All right, we got a motion, by Vice Mayor Quetch to adopt the ordinance, for the Atmos Energy Corporation bid for natural gas franchise privilege, lease, or right proposed to be granted, and waive that second reading. All right.
Yes.
I also need a second.
Second.
A second by Mr. Owens. Any discussion, council? Do we have any more questions? Hearing none, Kim, if you'll please call the roll.
Mr. Owens?
Aye.
Mr. Anderson?
Aye.
Ms. Gillian?
Aye.
Ms. Quetch?
Aye.
And Mayor Webb?
Aye. Thank you, Kim, for helping us out there. It's a little muddy there. for a
Lawyers
second.
always gotta complicate
That's
things.
it, that's it. All right, so we don't have any second.
Will it be rejected, so you got to avoid that.
That's it, that's true, yeah. All right, so no second readings of ordinances, no considerations of bids. Don't think we have any new business or old business per se, but we do have some miscellaneous business and communications from the town manager. First up, it's a very exciting time. We've got Chief Holbrook and an update on the Abingdon Police Department. Welcome.
Mayor, members of council, as is common practice, which is great, I get to come up here and tell you a little bit about what is happening with the police department. And I'm going to go over what we've done through June and July a little bit, just a quick brief for you. Before we get started, though, I brought a shift with me tonight because I wanted to recognize. There in the back, I got Acting Sergeant Cody Johnson, Officer Charles Huddleston, and Officer Adam Heath. And I wanted to tell you a little incident that happened in July that was had a great turnout, and of course I wanted to highlight what they did to make it successful. But on July 17th, 2021, his shift, along with Officer D, who couldn't be here tonight, and later Officer Rogers, who couldn't be here tonight, they were dispatched to a location on Ball Lane where they had a suicidal female. They get there, they find the female holding a box cutter with lacerations already on her wrist, and was holding the officers at bay, saying that she was going to commit suicide should they come any closer. The officers were very patient, the shift was very patient, and they talked, and they talked, and they talked. So they talked and communicated with her for about an hour. And at the end, they were able to trade the knife for a cigarette and a hug. And that's what we like to see. We like to see that professionalism, that patience, and that expertise in using their training and knowledge to bring it to a successful conclusion. We took her into custody and got her to the hospital for mental health treatment without any further incident at all. So I would just like to congratulate these folks, these great officers, and a fantastic job well done. Certainly helping her out. So moving back to my
Chief,
folks.
you don't mind me interrupting?
No, go.
Because I do it a lot, I know that. But can you explain, we talked, I know it was CTAC last year when they gave the presentation,
Sure.
we talked about, can you explain about the mental health training requirements that are now in place and what we do to train the officers in that area?
Sure. So some of the officers on scene had the CIT training, the Crisis Intervention Technique training. And that's for incidents such as this, so that they can have some skill sets, some knowledge on how to bring a situation successfully to an end without having to use force and basically to end it peacefully. At least 2 officers on scene had this training, and they utilized it to success, obviously. It took a little while, but there was no rush during this. We had time, but they utilized that training, and I'm looking forward to getting more officers trained in that. It's not a very common training. They're trying to have as many classes as they can, but it's a 40-hour class at the academy, and it's put on by Highlands Community Services and a team from there and out of New River Valley that has the training.
Great work.
Thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Moran?
No, that was it. Well, I just wanted
Sure.
to share with the council that, with the new Marcus Alert and everything coming forth, that there's a strong emphasis on mental health training, particularly in police departments, and but just wanted to highlight that. So.
Sure. So, back to my officers, we did have to announce the retirement of Sergeant Camille Finney. After 23 years of dedicated service to the town, she decided to retire and take advantage of our very wonderful retirement package that you all passed years ago. And I wish her the best. I don't know if you've seen the sign-off video on Facebook. Last time I looked, it had like 1.2 million views of her signing off the last time. Her daughter's a dispatcher in the city of Bristol for their police department, so we got her up here. Washington County allowed her to go in their dispatch so that when she signed off, we had her daughter, Katie, do the official sign-off. It was great. But we're sad to see her go, but she's got a lot of plans. They started a business, her and her husband did, so I'm sure they'll be very successful.
Just as an update, I saw her today and she said she's been incredibly busy, probably busier since she retired, so just so y'all know.
Yeah, I was afraid that was going to happen. But we did hire 2 officers. We hired Officer Adam Heath. He's back there. He worked for us for several years, and then he went to a different agency and came back to the Abingdon PD. He brings a wealth of knowledge. He's a DCGS instructor. He's got extensive knowledge in drug investigations, very extensive knowledge in gang investigations, probably one of the leaders of gang investigations in this area. He also holds a bachelor's degree from Radford University in criminal justice, so I'm glad to see him back. As you can see, he's already on that call as well, so he's already done with his field training and on his own, of course. We also hired Justin Nichols, who is a brand new officer. We hired him, and we had about a quick 2-week orientation, and then he's already in the academy right now. Justin doesn't have any experience in law enforcement except for his father worked for the city of Bristol and is now one of the training coordinators at the academy. And he also has an uncle that's been a deputy with Washington County for many years. So he's familiar with what he's getting into, and we're glad to have him. He's already on his 2nd test at the academy and doing well. During the summer months, we took over code enforcement for a little bit on a temporary basis. I put my school resource officers on that mission, and they've been going around and helping get compliance with the weeds and the trash and any other nuisance type code enforcement that needs to be taken care of. Our goal here is compliance more so than enforcement. So we've been knocking on doors, well, they've been knocking on doors and just asking people to comply.
That's not true, you knocked on a couple doors.
I did, and so did you.
I did,
We-
yes.
Me and Mr. Morani even went out together and talked to a few folks about compliance with code enforcement. So far, they've had 18 different reports that they'll be following up on code violations. Done a few community relations events. Officer Richardson went by our first Christian church, spent the morning talking to kids. My kids go to daycare there, so they enjoyed Officer Richardson there. But she also brought a Matthew Riley, who's National Guard recruiter. So my son actually likes the Army recruiter more than the police officer. But, you know, he was disappointed that the recruiter couldn't bring a tank. Recruiter said, well, we can't drive them on the roads, and my son says they want a truck. So, yeah. Had a little bit of training. Couple basic trainings is I went to an intentional leadership class at the academy. Great class taught by a retired chief out of South Carolina. One of our SROs went to a basic SRO school and completed some formal training for that. Another officer went to an advanced driving instructor school in Fairfax. Fairfax is one of the leading agencies on driving throughout the country. So she got to experience what they teach in their track and all kinds of exciting things. Two went to an ALICE instructor school, and ALICE is a program for active shooters kind of in a business or a civilian response to that. It partners with the Washington County Schools, who has some of their staff trained in ALICE, so that we can be on the same page when we're talking to teachers and other school administration about what to do in the case of an active shooter. And of course, we had our department-wide use of force training. Back to CTAC, which is our crisis intervention. They've been extremely busy here as of late. You know, the mental health piece is always getting busier and busier and busier. As you're aware, the governor decided to put some more money into our mental health to make it a little bit more efficient, which we're very grateful of that, because right now the majority of the state hospitals aren't taking admissions. So that's problematic if you need mental health. But Howlands has garnered some more money for the CTAC because it's been successful. So we're going from one person per day to a full 24-hour shift on our CTAC. We're going to share these duties with Washington County Sheriff's Office. We're going to keep our 2 CTAC officers, and they're going to hire 2 CTAC officers and have this round the clock. That way we're all in this together. So I'm looking forward to that. That's going to take some responsibility off and extra work off my folks, and we can just share in making sure that these shifts are covered. Howlands also had the first community stakeholders meeting and our Marcus Alert. That's our law enforcement and clinician response to a behavioral health crisis. Mr. Morani attended that meeting with me, so we're kind of reaching out to the community and getting input on how they would like to see us respond to behavioral health crisis. So with a clinician, without a clinician, or just a clinician kind of response. So that's kind of the update on the mental health stuff. As far as our statistics, of course, our call volume is increasing a little bit, but so is our efforts. We're stopping more cars, we're writing more summons, we're trying to address all the speeding complaints that we can, and try to keep those traffic crashes down. They are increasing, but you know, everybody's just getting up and out and moving for now. I hope you have good news later, but I don't know. But for now, everybody's getting up, taking vacations, which is great. People are coming into town, but that brings a lot of traffic. But we're doing our best out there, and that's about all I have. So, questions?
Any questions, council? Well, thank you guys for your hard work and
We
gals.
appreciate you.
Yes, we
Thank you
appreciate
all
what
for
you
your
do.
support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice to have you back at it. Thank y'all for coming. All right. That brings us to number 2, allocation of funds received from the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021, ARPA. Mr. Morani, and I'm assuming you're gonna make Steve talk. about this,
I
aren't
told
you?
Steve that he is required to come up to the podium. I am gonna start.
Okay.
As you know, we discussed at the council retreat some of the funding priorities that the council has with relation to use of the ARPA funds. And one thing I've tried to explain to people, even in the community that have asked me this, about, use of the funds, and it is, they do come with restrictions, that they're not just, it's not a big pot of money that we can just spend on whatever we want, and there's specific guidelines that the U.S. Treasury has given municipalities. And I think what we've done is try to take some of our infrastructure needs, as what the council has determined, taking some of our infrastructure needs and putting those funds to use in the community that will impact everybody in a positive way. So the memo that's in the packet obviously is very detailed, and Steve was able to provide me with the guidelines, the specific guidelines, and from the FAQ guidance from the Department of Treasury, which will be subsequently amended many times, and he's on top of that and making sure that we're in full compliance. But what I've done is I've outlined here, based on the discussion and the recommendation at the council retreat, the allocation of the funds which the council wants to use the money for, and these are flood mitigation and stormwater management. This is specifically going to impact Main Street, the East Main Street flooding problem. It's going to be a very labor-intensive and expensive project, so it's important, I think, that we get out in front of it now and start the planning immediately, get engineering under contract, which we're in the process of doing right now. Allocating $4 million for that. Completion of the Meadows Sports Complex, allocation of $2 million, and that is specifically, as you may recall, and for the public's benefit, when the project was bid, it was bid with alternates, and it included things like the lights and the concession building / restroom, which was in the multi-purpose fields, soccer fields. That was not due to funding availability. It was not awarded. That portion of the contract was not awarded because of the lack of funds, due to the guidelines that are included in the Department of Treasury regulations. There is they're stressing the use of outdoor recreational areas, amenities also, which we'll get to in a minute, rehabilitating outdoor recreation facilities in that sense. So we are comfortably able to recommend that we utilize the ARPA funds for outdoor recreations, and what the $2 million will do, it will allow us to complete the lighting for all of the fields, baseball and multi-use fields, as well as putting really a much needed facility over in the multi-use soccer fields area, which will also serve as a concession stand. And it's important that we do it during the construction as close as we can. Not only will it save the town costs, but it will also help expedite the project. So we don't want to come in afterwards and do construction after the first phase is already complete, or that phase is already complete. The Virginia Creeper Trail trestle repairs. This is something that the town council is recommending we allocate $1.25 million. There, as some of you might know, there was a report done by Mannering and Craig, and it was completed, I want to say it was late 2019, I think, because then we had the pandemic, and it identified, I believe it was 7 or 8. It was, I know one of them, the one that was tornado, was not included because it was replaced shortly thereafter, but I believe it was the first 7 trestles, and identified needs to repair those structures. We are continuing to work with the Virginia Creeper Trail Conservancy and in Washington County, actually in the town of Damascus. We've had some fruitful discussions on how we could collaborate and possibly share funding for additional trestles, and including these. So those funds are going to be utilized to shore up the infrastructure that also that's what I was looking for, promoting outdoor recreation activities which are safer during the COVID environment. And so those funds would be allocated for those. And then also the Green Spring Road culvert replacement, $825,000, and I don't remember if this happened pre-pandemic or before. Some of you were on the council, but there was a report that we do have culvert, the main culvert on Green Spring Road is needing to be replaced. And so it is, because of the significance, you don't even know, Mike, do you even know what size that is? I'm putting you on the spot here, so.
I think it's 248.
248, okay.
248 inches.
Okay, it involves significant construction and engineering, so potential realignment of the roadway in order to complete this project. So it also is a stormwater issue, which is allowed per the guidance from the U.S. Treasury Department. So those are the 4 projects. I tried to explain those to everybody, so could be transparent and clear on how the town council is prioritizing the use of these funds. So be happy to answer any questions or ask Steve any questions. He still has not come up to the podium, unless he's gonna wait until he's asked a question.
That's it.
So unless there's anything else that you would like to add, Steve, to the discussion, anything that I missed or you want to include?
No, Mr. Morani did an excellent job of summarizing the projects. The only thing I would like to reiterate is that unfortunately, the U.S. Treasury doesn't give us an explicit list. They gave us 4 broad categories of eligible uses for the money, which leaves jurisdictions to be a little interpretational, as it were. They have addressed a lot of this in a series of FAQs, and as was already mentioned, we anticipate updates and addenda to that FAQ list as time goes on. The Treasury is listening to jurisdictions about specific questions. GFOA is very good about funneling those questions to the Treasury so that we can get, some certainty, if you will. But based on the FAQs that have been promulgated thus far, we feel like we're in pretty good, firm footing for the outdoor recreation. I will say that one of the areas, of course, is the use of lost revenue. And we have not calculated our lost revenue yet. So if there is an area that we've identified that may be subject to questioning or whatnot, we'll still have a pot of that category that we could use, which is basically to replace government services that had to be put on hold because of the pandemic. So we'll continue to keep the council informed as these FAQs become available and more clarity is provided, but we have a fairly high confidence level in what we've already, or what the council has already identified as the major priorities.
Steve, a quick question I have that I'm not clear on, as far as the deadline is 2026. Does the money have to be spent by then, or the projects just have to be started by then?
The project is going to have to be started by the end of December 2024. We will have until December 31st, 2026 to actually spend it.
That could mean a contract being signed as well. Could that be, Steve?
Well,
If
the
contract
funds
is-
have to be dispersed by the end of 2026.
Right, no, what I'm saying
Yeah.
is by 2024, we could.
We could have a
we
contract in
have a
place,
contract
right.
under- okay.
So on those large areas, particularly on the stormwater, I mean, time is really of the essence, because as we know, the engineering studies are gonna take time, the design is gonna take time, and then whatever other issues we may face, as a result of the actual construction of that stormwater mitigation system. So that's gonna be a long process. Based on some internal conversations, we feel like if we can get these things identified, we're gonna have to stay on top of it, though.
Yeah.
There's gonna have to be some gating marks so that we know that this is gonna be in place, so that we can spend the money. So,
Thank you, Steve.
Mhm.
Appreciate that.
thank you all.
So we're just asking just for a council motion to
Just
make
to
the
allocate the
allocations.
money?
Yeah.
Okay.
And as things change, if we realize we're doing a project and it comes in under budget, or there's monies that are available to us through, say, for instance, with the sports complex, if we feel that there's fundraising that is able to free up some other funds, and this is, we've only even gotten half the funds, so we're in this for several years. So as needed, if we need to revisit this and come back to the council to further revise these allocations, we can. But as of now, this would be the initial allocation, so we can earmark these funds and have certainty. Wait, you have one, Mr. Trotman has one more.
I just have
He forgot.
one more point I'd like to make. We will be reporting directly to the U.S. Treasury, unlike the way we did it with the CARES Act, where we were a subrecipient of the county and we reported to the county. In this case, we're going to be reporting directly to the U.S. Treasury. Our first report is going to be due on October 31st. I don't know whether or not we're going to actually expend any money between now and September 31st, which is the actual quarter that we're going to be looking, or 30th, is the quarter that we're going to be looking at. But that's going to give us really an indication, I'm suspecting. It's going to give us an indication of the type of things that they're going to be asking, so that we know, that may provide us a little bit more clarity as to the eligible uses. So stay tuned for that. As soon as I get that initial report request, I'll let you know.
What would trigger the amendment? Ultimately, I assume you would have to amend the budget if it happens this year. What triggers that when we actually?
Once the count, now, my understanding is, from the retreat and this evening, we've kind of allocated, we've identified these projects, but we haven't actually appropriated the funds yet. Once we appropriate $1, then we're gonna have to amend the budget, for, this fiscal year's budget, because.
Yeah, we are gonna show significant expenses in this year's budget. We received the funds the last day of the previous fiscal year, but since we didn't spend any of the money, a budget amendment wasn't necessitated.
Right,
That
was my understanding and
But
conversations
since we're
with
expending the
others,
funds this year, and we will in the following year, although we might have a little bit more clarity, the expectation is we're gonna be amending the budget, and we're probably gonna have to amend the budget next year as well. Yeah.
Well, and unfortunately, they did send us the money on the 30th. It would have been nice if they had waited till July 1st, but, it is what it is. But they're supposed to, even though it's directly from the Treasury, it's going through the state. And the state is supposed to distribute the second tranche of money within 12 months of the first. So that's gonna put us next year, again, right, are they gonna do it on June 30th, which means we're gonna get it, we're gonna appropriate this 2022 fiscal year, or is it gonna carry over into the next year? But even if, with that timing, we will have already done the budget for 2023 as well, just like we did this year. So it's gonna be a moving target for the next 12, 13 months of when we actually get the money, and then how the council appropriates the funds.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate that. Well, council, do we have any questions for Jimmy before we move on and
So we are going to go forward with the lighting for the multipurpose fields.
Yeah, correct. Actually, we had a conversation today with staff and with Cam. What we're going to do is we're going to issue a change order for the building, and we are going to more than likely separate, for procurement reasons, with advice from Mr. Bell, separate the lighting project from the project. Doesn't mean that the current contractor won't be able to complete the project. It would be easier for them to do it, but those could happen concurrently, or it could ultimately be a different contractor that bids on it. But the first thing that has to happen anyways first is the facility, is the building. So that will be included as a change order, and then we'll proceed having CHA put out a solicitation to receive bids for the lighting.
But those two projects are what the $2 million's for.
Yes.
Right,
Yes,
okay.
correct.
I just had somebody ask me specifically about the lighting, so I wanted to
Yeah.
be sure that when I
Yeah, and there's
went
some
back and
people that
talked to
didn't even
them-
know that lighting wasn't included. I mean, you try to,
Sure.
it's been such a long process that, but when you tell people, I think they're really excited that we're gonna be able to do that and do it before it opens. We really don't wanna have to
Restaurants
go back.
included with that?
Yeah, so that'll actually be included. So once we execute that change order, they'll be able to start ordering supplies and getting that scheduled. So you'll see that, Mike Surratt. By the way, Mike Surratt is here. I've actually promoted him. He's gonna be helping me manage the Public Works Department and try to be a liaison with some of the departments. And he's been a lot at the sports complex. He's probably been the most involved on site. What is the status, Mike, of the current building B? Is that what it is? Maybe get up here.
Currently, Building B is currently under construction. They're getting ready to start putting in the roofing. They already have all the infrastructure in the building, and they've already got the facade on the outside of it. And it's just a matter of putting the roof, doors and stuff on it and basically wiring it and hooking all the utilities up to it. But building B is probably farther along than any building out there. But building C, the middle concession stand is on track to be finished within the project schedule.
So if we were to execute the change order, tomorrow, how long do you think it would take for them to mobilize? To just a couple weeks, maybe?
Yeah,
Or would
I
you
mean,
use some
as
of the same crews that
soon
are
as
out
we
there?
finalize the
Okay.
change order, the contractor will go ahead and start the process of materials and planning it and getting that, because, I mean, they already have the plans for it.
But they can
they'll
start
be
doing
able-
site work. I
Yeah,
guess,
they'll
first,
start
yeah.
doing the site work and the infrastructure and all that stuff.
Okay. thanks.
Building B that you're talking about, what is that structure?
It is the maintenance building. It's on the far south end, next to the parking lot. And building A is the one that's in the middle of the quad of baseball fields.
That's the
That's
one you see
building
from Interstate really well, correct?
Yes, the one that was blue,
I was
yeah.
getting building B mixed up with building A.
Yeah,
That was-
building A is in the quad, building B is down there next to the maintenance, this is the maintenance building next to the parking lot, on the south end.
You should have called it building B for near the baseball field.
That's it.
That's why that's why.
Congratulations, Mike, by the way.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Mike probably coached all those kids who won the runner-up baseball championship.
quite a few.
I bet you did.
Yes.
Exciting times, right? All right, council, so I think what we need then is a motion to allocate these funds so we can go ahead and give Jimmy the authority to move forward.
I'd like to make that motion.
Motion by Vice Mayor Quetch to allocate the funds as we just discussed. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Pillion. Any discussion, council? Hearing none, Kim, if you'll please call the roll.
Mr. Owens?
Aye.
Mr. Anderson?
Aye.
Ms. Pillion?
Aye.
Ms. Quetch?
Aye.
And Mayor Webb?
Aye. Exciting times, really is. That brings us to the discussion regarding Hassinger House. Mr. Moran.
Yes, as you may know, the town did not receive any proposals for the Hassinger House. I think the process by which we went through, I think initially it was the right decision to do. I think it guaranteed the most controlled way to dispose of the property. But I think in this particular situation, it just wasn't enough time, or it wasn't the right, because of the requirements and everything that they had to do, submitting a plan. I think in an ideal world, people just wanted to come in and say, hey, I want to offer a proposal. So I'm just trying to contemplate what some of the reasons were, because it is a very attractive piece of property, and we all know that. So after talking with staff and talking with Tanya Triplett and other staff, I think our staff's recommendation is to just go ahead and attempt to auction off the property. And I did ask Mr. Bell if we could still place some of the similar restrictions that we had in mind as far as the preservation of the site, and he said, yes, we can do that. And my understanding is through the auction of the Summers Law Office building, there was a similar process involved. So if we had a restrictive covenant included that said that the property owner could not demolish the building or had to keep it in a certain condition, we could do that. So that would be staff's recommendation, is to have us work with CAM and develop a method by which we can move forward with that process. So I'm certainly able to answer any questions, but considering that we didn't get any proposals and we don't really have much information to go on. We did have a few people come by in the open house. Tiny couldn't close the deal though.
Yeah, right.
Just kidding.
So you need a motion to move forward with this? Is that what we're?
That would be the motion, is to direct me.
Do you need a consensus or a
I think a
motion, or-
consensus is fine. Do you want a motion?
I do.
You want a motion? Okay.
To-
All right.
For that particular.
For this particular, because it involves
So-
real estate. Yeah.
Well, we already had a public meeting, so we don't need a public hearing, so we don't need to have that again. But I think it would, just for clarity, to
Okay.
move that we would auction it off. In addition to what Jimmy said, we would set a reserve
Sure.
limit. I don't think that we need to make that public, but something, it wouldn't be an absolute auction. There would have to be a threshold that
Right.
the public would have to cross for that to
And
sell.
just to reiterate and clarify, we can put all the restrictive covenants so they can't tear it down, et cetera, All the same, so basically all the same meat of the contract that we had before, just in an auction form. Is that what I'm hearing?
Right.
Okay.
So that, all that would be agreed to when we would sign the deed, right? I mean, that would all be,
Well, we would put that forward in the terms of the
Right.
auction,
Right.
and that's what we did at Summers Law Office. Summers Law Office, as I recall, we said it was subject to the restrictions of the Holden Historic District, which it is anyway, but we added that in there, and it would remain, subject to that, moving forward, and that's what we've said. In this case, it's just a different mechanism. Now, the difference between what we did before and what we're gonna do now is the price is gonna be what sells it. You know, before, in the RFP process, we had a number of factors, and we could weigh those things, but if we're gonna auction it, then it's gonna work like an auction. So whoever bids the highest is gonna get it, but it will be subject to whatever restrictions that the council would like to do. And we've already
Determined
pretty
those,
much, identified what those are gonna be, and so we would put those in the auction package, to do that. Now, we will need to hire, an auctioneer.
Auctioneer.
But that would be under the Procurement Act limit, of course, and so Jimmy could just hire somebody, to do that. But, yeah, I think we probably just need a motion from council to auction, the process subject to the terms that we've iterated here, and leave the specifics to Jimmy.
And what's the timeline? How soon?
we can start the process this week when we'll start developing at least reaching out to an auctioneer. And
Yeah.
I'll work with Cam on it.
I think given the lack of responses, and I agree with Jimmy, just sort of reading the tea leaves, I think that people thought we made it too complicated. But I think communication is gonna be the key, so I think we would be better off having a little bit longer time frame and get the word out,
Yeah.
than we are moving quickly and not getting a response.
Well, and I think it also helps the fact that, because we were selling it and we weren't paying realtor fees, now they're motivated, obviously, to sell property. And that's just the nature of their job. Because we weren't paying, listing fees, or there wasn't a buyer's fee involved, there's less motivation for realtors to try to move property. And not that you can't sell it that way, and I think we did the right thing by doing what we did. But I think when you get an auctioneer involved, there's a push, from there's marketing from the auctioneer, there's a little bit more education, marketing, whatnot, instead of us, the town, just posting it on its website and a few, for sale by owner website stating this is for sale, here are the terms. And I think some people were probably a little bit overwhelmed by the amount of work they had to do, but I think it was worth a shot, and it certainly, at the time, I think was the right decision. But this is probably the easiest and most efficient way to sell the property.
All right, council, if there's no other questions, I would entertain a motion to go ahead and, Cam, how did you state it? To approve auctioning, give Jimmy the go-ahead to go ahead and hire an auctioneer and plan those things out as iterated during our conversation.
Subject to the conditions that have been stated.
All right, council, what's your pleasure?
I'll make that motion.
All right, got a motion by Mr. Owens, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Pillion. Any discussion, council? Hearing none, Kim, if you'll please call the roll.
Mr. Owens?
Aye.
Mr. Anderson?
Aye.
Ms. Gilliam?
Aye.
Ms. Quetch?
Aye.
And Mayor Webb?
Aye. That brings us to
Well,
council.
Mr. Mayor, I do have a couple things I wanted to
Sure.
update that weren't listed on here.
Oh,
Just,
okay, yeah, go
yep.
right ahead.
Couple things, and he's in the room, so I'm gonna comment on, report on something that we have solved a problem. Our method is to try to reach as many citizens as possible, and Billy, what's your last name?
Full. Mr. Full.
Mr. Fuller. Okay, I thought it was Fulton, I didn't want to say.
Full in.
Fullen, okay, sorry. Mr. Fullen. We've talked to staff about as you recall, Mr. Fullen had stated that he did not know that the trash receptacles were going to be picked up on the holidays, and so he doesn't get on social media. A lot of people don't. A lot of people don't get on social media or the website. So what we are trying to do now is putting a plan in place where we will print a message on the utility bills. So if there is a holiday in the subsequent month when the bills go out, for instance, I talked to Tammy Baldwin earlier, and so she'll get, even though unlike a lot of the major holidays like Christmas and Thanksgiving, people kind of pay attention to. Some of the other holidays like Labor Day, and, you know, people aren't as, you know, in tune to when that falls, depending on their life and how busy they are. So we're gonna put that message on the utility bills, so leading up to that month, they'll get a statement that just says, you know, holiday pickup schedule, and that'll be included on the bill for the month before. So I think that leads only 2 months that we actually won't have any message in the bill, since I think there's a holiday at least 10 months out of the 12. So that'll just help with some of the education. And we do have the room to put it on there, and Tammy says it's very, very easy to be done, so just gotta make sure we read the bills though, so not everybody reads them. I just look at the amount and pay it. But the other thing I wanted to, two more things real quick. During the retreat, we talked about the agenda cover sheets, and we are in the process of developing that, Kim and I. We've had a very busy month, but starting in the meeting in September, I've already talked to staff about it. At our staff meetings, we're gonna have these, the agenda cover sheets, so there'll be a background summary of some information, and then any recommended action or any action that we're requesting by the council. So we'll have that starting at the meeting in, the first meeting in September, which is September 7th, I think, because it's on a Tuesday, because we have Labor Day. Trash will not be picked up on Labor Day. Advance notice. Last item is, I wanted to briefly update everybody on what's going on with the wastewater contract operations. You know, we've got a selection committee, and the selection committee has been reviewing the proposals. And the goal is to identify a firm, which then we will negotiate and bring back to the council at a future meeting to present it to the council, you know, to make action. You know, Cam is on that committee as well, and we'll be leaning on him as, during the process. But I want everybody, I know there's been a lot of comments about the decision or the exploration of doing this. And I just think it's important that we look, while the treatment plant, you know, I think does operate, you know, fairly well, very well, we have to look at the entire system. And the entire system is nearly 120 miles long, and we've had reports that have recently been completed that there is, in some areas, significant leakage, and there's a lot of I&I, and that comes from inflow and infiltration, that comes from stormwater, and it comes from groundwater. And, you know, technically those are unlawful discharges in accordance with state law. And we have had, you know, warning letters from DEQ stating that these are unlawful. We do need to remedy these things, and we have responded accordingly in stating to them that we are developing a plan, you know, with our consulting engineers to address the I&I issues. But there are some times during heavy rainfalls where we have significant amount of infiltration. And I believe at times, and I'm in the process of trying to put the data together, we most likely treat more stormwater at certain times of the year than we do wastewater. And that's a cost not only to the town, the taxpayers, but it's not good environmentally as well. We've had manholes that have overflowed as well, which over the long term, I mean, DEQ is gonna look at this, and if we're not on a path to remediate and correct these things, I do think that going forward, it's important that we have a plan. Now, this plan is going to include program scheduling, procurement, engineering, contract negotiation and management, construction contract negotiation and management, loan administration, grant administration, preparation of budgets, project management, scheduling, enforcement of various ordinances, which we'll eventually address, I think, in the future. We had one ready to go prior to the pandemic, and we had to put that on hold. We had to go through our infrastructure committee and potentially right-of-way acquisition. This is a very major, significant project that involves many different steps, and I think it would behoove the council to consider the long-range plans of the sewer system in its entirety, and determine going forward if it's best to go this route. Because we do have, I believe, the industry in itself, as you've seen, and even in the public sector, it's very difficult to attract and retain employees. And as people retire and as people leave with institutional knowledge, I think it's very, very critical that we plan in advance to ensure that we have the tools necessary going forward to address these long-range issues with the collection system and the sewer system. So I just wanted to put that out there and just sort of make any points.
Thank you, Jim.
All right.
All right, so that brings us to council member reports. Council, does anybody have a report they'd like to make? Anybody? All right. I would like to just quickly, we touched on it a moment ago, kind of inadvertently, but I would like to bring everybody up to speed. You know, I pledged months ago to sort of lead the path for charitable donations for the sports complex, and that is going quite well. Right now, we're sitting nearly at $300,000. My goal was always to raise $1 million through various different avenues. So I'm still working towards that, but it is going quite well. And then we continue to have conversations with different organizations, and people are very generous and want to be involved because it's a very exciting project. So just kind of FYI for everybody. But great work, council. It's always a pleasure. That does bring us to the last section of the agenda, the appointments to boards and committees. We do have two reasons to go into closed session. I guess we have to read this one and this one.
Okay.
So if you want to kind of combine those.
I will. All right, I move that the Abingdon Town Council convene in closed session pursuant to the Code of Virginia 1950 as amended, section 2.2-3711A29, concerning a lease with Washington County Historical Society for discussion of the terms or scope of the contract, because public discussion would adversely affect our bargaining position or negotiating strategy. And I also move that we go into closed session pursuant to the Code of Virginia 1950 as amended, section 2.231A1, for the purpose of considering application for appointment for position on Virginia Highlands Small Business Incubator.
All right. Council, so we have a motion, a lengthy motion, by Vice Mayor Quetch, for two different reasons to go into closed session. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Pillion. Any discussion, council? Hearing none, Kim, if you please call the roll.
Mr. Owens?
Aye.
Mr. Anderson?
Right.
Ms. Gillian?
Aye.
Ms. Wedge?
Aye.
The Mayor Webb?
Aye. All right. That means we're going into closed session.
Done.
It's comfortable. We had a busier meeting, I thought, a longer meeting, I should say, but it was good.
It's the $20 application fee and $10 now.
So we need to, we probably need to put that on, yeah, we probably need to put that on work session and talk
And we
about
have,
it,
we
yeah.
have to finish
Okay.
a number of things for.
Because I think we talked about it as a council, sort of individually, or
Yeah,
in pairs
yeah.
or whatever. And, yeah, well, yeah, we're gonna talk.
Work session?
Yeah, we'll put it in the work session and figure that one out. Thank you for reminding me, I totally forgot about it. All right, so, first thing we need is a motion to come back into open session. And then we'll do the, certification.
I'll make a motion.
So a motion by Vice Mayor Quetch to come back into open session. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Anderson. Any discussion, council? Kim, can you please call the roll?
Mr. Owens?
Aye.
Mr. Anderson?
Aye.
Ms. Gilliam?
Aye.
Ms. Quetch?
Aye.
And Mayor Webb?
Aye. And now the certification.
I move that the town council certify that in closed session just concluded, nothing was discussed except the matter or matters specifically identified in the motion to convene in closed session and lawfully permitted to be discussed under the provision of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act cited in that motion.
Mr. Owens, do
I
you so
certify.
certify? Mr. Anderson?
I so certify.
Ms. Gilliam?
I so certify.
Ms. Quetch?
I so certify.
And Mayor Webb?
I so certify. All right, so I think we have, first, we're gonna take up the, discussion we had talked about, a lease agreement we have in place. And Ms. Billion, do you have a motion you'd like to make, or two separate motions?
I have two separate motions.
All right.
The
go with
first, I move to authorize the town manager to provide notice that the lease of 306 Depot Square will not be renewed.
one. All right, motion by Ms. Pillion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Owens. Any discussion, council? Kim, if you'll please call the roll.
Mr. Owens?
Aye.
Mr. Anderson?
Aye.
Ms. Gilliam?
Aye.
Ms. Quetch?
Aye.
And Mayor Webb?
Aye. And then you have another motion, correct?
I move to authorize the town manager to begin the process of issuing an RFP to lease the property at 306 Depot Square.
Motion by Ms. Pillion to start the process, or give the town manager authorization to start the process of RFP. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Mayor Quetch. Any discussion, council? Kim, if you'll please call the roll.
Mr. Owens?
Nay.
Mr.
Aye.
Anderson?
Aye.
Ms. Gilliam?
Aye.
Ms. Quetch?
Aye.
And Mayor Webb?
Aye. All right, and that brings us to the last item, the appointments to boards and committees for the Virginia Highland Small Business Incubator. Council, if we're going to reappoint all four members for an additional year term, we can take that up all in one motion if you'd like. And I would entertain that motion if you guys would so move.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Owens to appoint all four current members to the Virginia Highland Small Business Incubator for an additional one-year term. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Pillion. Any discussion, council? Hearing none, Kim, if you'll please call the roll.
Mr. Owens?
Aye.
Mr. Anderson?
Aye.
Ms. Gilliam?
Aye.
Mayor Quetch?
Aye.
Ms. Quetch, I'm sorry, and Mayor Webb?
Aye.
I'll forget.
All right. So if we haven't missed anything, that brings us to the end of the meeting, so we are adjourned.